looking like you're more and more ready to be involved, and hopefully this information will help you be involved with somebody you know, because I know there's many connections in our family circles and our career circles with people who are younger or maybe people who are older looking for something new. New ways to live and serve and be of use in the world. So this is our last speaker for the series for this year, and we saved the best for last, I think. So Keisha has been on our committee. We're so glad we've had her working with us. So I will give a little intro here. Dr. Keisha Taylor is a dedicated leader in education, career readiness, and workforce development. Dedicated to preparing young adults for the evolving demands of the workplace. With a passion for bridging the gap between education and employment, she ensures that young professionals have the skills, knowledge, and connections needed to succeed in the competitive job market. Keisha's work over the years equips students and alumni with critical workplace skills, where she emphasizes the importance of professionalism, problem solving, versatility, and adaptability. She develops career readiness programs helping young professionals build essential skills to search and prepare for a role. Her one-on-one sessions with young emerging professionals focus on resume writing, interviewing, networking, and understanding workplace culture. Through her many collaborations with workforce development coalitions, Keisha has a unique perspective of what employers are looking for in creating career pathways, supporting internship to hire pipelines, and mentoring programs. She encourages emerging professionals to gain real-world experience and industry exposure that support direct hiring opportunities. So that's one part of Keisha, but she also supports the community through all kinds of boards that she is involved with, and community groups within the county and beyond. And she is working with one group that I had a chance to go to an event which is called Impact 100 South Jersey, which is a group of women who sponsor philanthropic endeavors. Each year they pick, how many?
We have three major grantees and then 3 community hero grants.
That's great.
Yeah, 6.
And she also has a new podcast that she's been developing, and I'm sure she can give you some information about that. And this was really cool. She was invited to a very important leadership institute in Aspen, Colorado this spring, and it was really, I know she had a great experience, but this was a prestigious invitation, and I was so proud of her that they invited her to come. She can tell you more about that if you want to ask her about it later. Now, also, she holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Rowan University and earned her doctorate in educational leadership and innovation from Wilmington University. She is the proud mother of 2 college-age sons, and they are really great. We've met them a few times. And she enjoys traveling, and I'm going to ask her husband how she's doing with learning to play golf.
Lefty.
All right. So please welcome Keisha.
Thank you. Yeah, not so great. I'm a work in progress. Well, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I think the timeliness of this conversation will be helpful to those of you who have loved ones who are in this age group. When I say emerging professionals, I really talk about those who are graduating from high school, getting ready to graduate from high school, so that 16, 17, 18-year-old, all the way really to 35. Lots to do. So Mary did all of that. That's me. And so, when I wrote this book, it really came out of conversations with not only my children, because they know so much, they say, but really the conversations with their friends and some of my community members, because they really were concerned about what does it take to really land the job, stay on the job, also be ready for the job and be ready for the opportunities. And so, I always like to say, like, your career is not a destination, it is a journey. And so we are very much in a generation, Gen Z right now and Gen Alpha, they are going to be in multiple career fields, whether or not it's healthcare, if it's law, they're gonna have multiple roles, multiple jobs, and there's a lot of buying and selling of companies. I think you don't read the news, right? So even if, I was talking to this young man the other day, and he's like, I wanna be a mechanic, I wanna work at Penske Auto. Sure, you might, and then, that can become a bigger company or a smaller company or any of those things in between. And so you have to be ready for the demands of the marketplace and the shifts that are happening in very much exponential manner. And so, just the strategies that you kind of need right now to navigate the world of work. And then also, one of the things that I'm noticing with our young people is that building of confidence, connections, interpersonal skills that they are in need of. They're not doing a lot of talking and communicating in real life. And so this is really what the marketplace really needs and demands and requires. And so all that inspiration is kind of what, fueled the writing of the book. And so I made it in terms of a design for resource support. I used QR codes so I can add and change information backed up to my website as things emerge. And so there are activities, and if you read the book, I know a few of you have, it's in scenarios and vignettes. And those are all, obviously I changed the names, but they were all things that people came to me about, what they were struggling with, what they had questions about, and how could I help them activate a plan and a strategy to be successful. And so, the uncertainty to action, we have a lot of young people, they're in a stagnant state and they don't take any action. They're in a constant state of indecision. So they don't do anything. We all get overwhelmed, right? But we get overwhelmed and then we may take action. This group, particularly, they don't. They just kind of stew and do nothing. And so the career realities, right? And so you think about skills become outdated faster than ever. What I shared with some high school seniors a few weeks ago is that the truth of the matter is in 6 months, you're gonna have to have another credential, certificate, some continual learning. They all freaked out. They're like, well, I'm gonna be an architect, I'm gonna be at Drexel. That's all the learning. That is continuous learning. I talked to a couple of young professionals, they're gonna go into cosmetology. I said, that's great. When you get on the job, they're going to require very quickly more education and training. And so then when I told the families this, they were also like, well, what does that mean? It means that we're in a constant changing marketplace where you have to constantly iterate and continue your learning. So think about the skills that you have now, and think about it in 6 months. What new skills might you even acquire that would be helpful? And so there are no linear career paths anymore. And so that's something else. Again, if you're an engineer, you may have multiple roles within that company, but generally, you're probably gonna move companies more than once, more than twice. So if you think about the people in your family, and you're thinking about maybe the 30-somethings, you're like, how many jobs have you had already? They're gonna have 10 or 12. For me, I'm at 8, and I'm 49, and I'm not done yet, right? So that's the reality of the marketplace. And it's really about competition. That's why networking and being adaptable is so important, because you meet people, you keep the people, you may change the jobs. So that's how you build up your network and you retain your network, and you don't have a transactional experience with people, because the people stay and you may be moving from job to job to job. And so 4 elements that I talk about in my book are these that I think are helpful to career success. So skills, experience, network, and action. And so skills, when I talk about skills, they are the technical skills. So if you think about technical skills, it's whatever that particular field or industry requires. What I tell young people all the time is that everybody has the same technical skills, because that's the requirement for the role. Where you stand out, oftentimes, is with your experience, your networking capabilities, who's in your network, and how you take action. Those are the things that make you stand out. Because everybody who applies to the job has the same requirements. But the other pieces that set you aside are really the things that make you, the person who's going to get the job. So skills and experience, network and action, that's where you get that career momentum. Young people are very much, again, they get bored in like 5 minutes, so that's also a little bit of the reason for the jumping of the job to job. But also, there may be those competitive advantages that happen when you move from different types of jobs. So if you think about financial services, I have a lot of banker friends. I never, I keep their card, but I don't, because I know pretty much in 2 years, 3 years, it's gonna change. And that's because they move, because they get different opportunities at different types of financial institutions. Things that I didn't really even think about, right? And so, you have to know yourself. You have to know where you will thrive best. Know the environment that you'll thrive best in. This is another thing that causes the changing also of roles. You may like to work on a larger team. You might want to work on a smaller team. And these are questions that I think you ask your loved ones when they are struggling, when they really don't know a lot about what the different type of work experiences are or how industry really works. They really have to do a lot of research, and researching with humans. Picking up the phone, calling, scheduling informational interviews. There's very few adults who will say to a 21-year-old, I don't have time. They will make time because they're going to be, one, impressed that someone called and asked for an opportunity to learn more about the particular job, the particular environment, any of those. And so that is a really important thing, again, that also sets you apart. And so, recognizing the values. There are a lot of people who work in, space. They work in aerospace. We are also right in the backyard of Lockheed. Right? There are a lot of people who like defense and working in defense, but there are a lot of people who think about engineering and they want to do it, related to supply chain, or they want to do it related to, something environmental. You have to think about your personal values and aligning them with your career choice. So aligning your career choice with your personal purpose and your values. I work with a lot of individuals. They want to do biomedical research. They want, that's what they want to do. They don't want to do research that's going to harm or impact, animals or the environment. So all of these things play a part. I talk to individuals and sometimes they don't really know what their values are. And so what I also encourage you to have those conversations about, really knowing more about yourself. Because you can't do a job that you don't like if you don't like the mission, if you don't like the organization, you don't like what they stand for. That's really difficult. And so, I also say to, young people, what are 3 things right now that you bring to the world of work? What are the 3 things? If you think about it for yourselves, because you know yourselves, you're far more evolved than the 20-somethings that I'm talking to. But what do you bring to the workplace? And if they were volunteers, if they worked at camp, they worked at Vacation Bible School, if they were a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, what is it that you bring that makes you very unique to that particular role in that place? And that's really where those conversations happen in the interviews. And so, beyond technical skills, which is what I was sharing with you. So, the technical skills may get you hired, but power skills help you advance. Power skills are what we used to call soft skills. They're really not soft. They are behavioral. They are things that get you hired and things that get you fired. And so we get hired for behavior, we get fired for behavior. And so I always want us to think about, and I use that word power skills in my book, and a lot of other companies, they call them future ready skills, 21st century skills. All of them are very powerful because it's the knowledge that you possess, and then again, the way that you execute your knowledge. And so these are some of them, those top skills. Makes a lot of sense. We've been doing this a whole long time. And again, I think at some point in raising the children or going to school, some of these iterations were lost, and we're like coming back full circle to having these conversations with our young people. And so if you, professionalism, like I teach a whole course on professionalism. Like, it's needed. A couple weeks ago, I get these small like contracts to work with different firms. It was with a law firm right in Cherry Hill, like professionalism skills. They're all attorneys. And I have like junior attorneys and I have some advanced attorneys. They have some work to do around professionalism with each other and then with clients. And then another big contract that usually I get is with accountants. So I do a lot with accountants, but professionalism. So we talk about all the things that it takes to be a professional in the workplace. Things that we would not be thinking about. And why do they farm that out? Because HR, talent management, they don't have time to do behavioral professionalism training. They've got, employee retention to worry about. They're worried about recruitment. They're worried about, the evaluation process and leadership development. So they, give some of those to external people. Transferable skills, and Mary can send this out, but these transferable skills are also a lot of what I talk about. Again, everybody wants to do like 50 things. You remember when you talked to the 5-year-olds and they want to be a firefighter, and then they want to be a doctor, they want to be a teacher, and then they want to be like their mom or dad. And so transferable skills is really what we want to make sure we take with us. So depending on a switch or a pivot in career, I'm talking to a lot of career changers right now, which is why I was just sharing with Mary that my thoughts about like what happens with this next version of a book topic, because there's a lot of career pivots. One is the economy, one is satisfaction and happiness, genuinely, right? We want to be happy with what we do and how we live and our purpose. So these transferable skills are really important. So regardless if you're in healthcare or education, or if you're thinking about being a welder or a plumber, what are the transferable skills that can take you from one role to another role? And so I love a graphic for that. And so exploring possibilities. I always think attending networking events, I am not a good example. I mean, I am a good example, but like it's a lot. I am out generally 3-ish, right? 4-ish nights a week. And so I'm always constantly building my network. And I do that for my mentees, my future mentees, for my friends, my family members. And so I always know a person. I generally always know somebody, and I generally can call or text them, and they're generally gonna call me back within 24 hours, because I really want to make sure that I pour into my community, pour into my network, so that it also can help and be of service to those in need. For the Equity Social Justice Committee, Mary was saying, like last year we were planning out the topics, and I was like, oh, I know a person, I think I got like 3 of our speakers, but based on relationships, and that's important. This part, when you're exploring possibilities, is also very important. And so I set up a lot of times my clients and my mentees with people that I know to help them explore some of the things that they're thinking about in their career. And so there are lots of community endeavors. We know that Burlington County, we're very busy here. And so there's always something to do, there's always a community to support, and then there are always people to add to your network. And experience comes in many forms. What stresses me out is like the person who called me last week looking for an internship in 2026 in June for the summer. Like that, I'm not gonna be able to make that happen, right? But I can think about where you can volunteer, and maybe you take on another part-time job and put together a couple activities that will help you, that won't serve as an internship per se, but give you some experience. All experience is important. Those part-time jobs, the other thing I've been saying to parents all spring, kids do need to work. Mm-hmm. That is why when they get working papers at 14, we should get them in the pipeline to work. Mm-hmm. They need to take feedback. They need to take direction from people who are not related to them, who are not, loving on them the way that the community does. They need to be able to have that evaluation process at 14, 15, 16. That's how you make a stronger, better employee. The people on the job, when they've never had a job, so I have this client, I just released him, he got his job. He's never had a job, he had one internship, 22 years old. So feedback's really hard for him, just in general, right? Because the only feedback he ever got was from like an instructor, a teacher, a professor, nothing else. So that's difficult. So what we were working on is making sure that you're gonna be able to take this feedback. Because also when you're not getting the jobs right away, you're crushed, you're emotional, it is devastating, but even more so, because you never ever had any rejection, any negative feedback ever. And so jobs are important. We want working individuals. And let me just also say, this is the most diverse work, the band in the workforce, the span of ages. So I thought it was wonderful to hear our sermon talking about, I'm a Gen Xer, on the younger side of Gen X. Because I'll be 15. Yeah, well, Gen X is, they're like 60 down to I'm 49 to 47. So we are squarely in the mode. But the boomers are still working too. Boomers are sometimes working to help with the grandkids and their kids because of some of these, again, economic shifts. And then you have Alpha, who've just gotten their, working papers. Like my niece is in 8th grade, and so she's going to 9th grade, and she's getting ready to get her working papers. So this is a really, really expansive workforce. And so I think of that as an advantage. There are lots of people that you can have within your community to, one, model yourselves after, ask questions, build your skill. You got a lot of different folks. And again, there are a lot of people who want to work or be of value, of service, and that's also why they're working, just to kind of be in community with others. If they haven't figured out there's a place in Princeton that you can learn other things and do that, which I think is really cool. What are you known for? In my book, I spend a lot of time talking about personal brand. And I talk about personal brand because what do people say when you're not in the room? Who is talking about you when you're not there? Building your own network beyond you. Those are really important elements that you have part of your brand. So what you see digitally, online, and if they see you, and then if they, hear a little bit about you, are all of those connections, all of those stories about you the same. And so that is really important about personal brand. And so what do people say? Do they say you're reliable, trustworthy, empathetic, any of those things? But if that's what they should see digitally, that's what they should see when they see you. And so I always ask my emerging professionals, when you leave the room, what do people say about you? And that's something that may resonate with you all as well. And so digital handshake, this is just all about social media. I also tell the young people, having no social media, that's not a win, because it just looks like maybe you're hiding something. So make the fake Keisha Taylor and just put puppies up, whatever. But not having it just kind of is a little bit of a red flag, because every employer wants to know what you do outside of work. I also have to practice this question, because I also have emerging professionals who want to overshare. There's certain things that we want to talk about in the interview. What do you do outside of work? What do you talk about at the water cooler? Again, the professionalism training I'm doing, I have to explain a lot of these things. We don't talk about this, we don't talk about that, and so just think about your own digital handshake. What does it say about you? It can say a lot, and so people are always looking. And again, there's another chapter in the book all about networking. I mean, the stat right now is 82% of the jobs people get right now in the 24 to 26 timeline, it's all relationship. It's behind the scenes. It's the job that gets posted that Mary will send to me for my mentee that hasn't even gone out on Indeed or, their website. So, networking is not collecting business cards and asking for jobs immediately. That's what it's not. I have to talk about that a lot too. And I go to networking events with young people, they're like, hi. I was like, okay, let's talk first, let's talk. So referrals, alumni connections, also really big deal. Professional associations, a lot of professional associations now also have like a young professionals group. And so that's also how you're building people up into the pipeline. And again, community involvement. When we're, cleaning up, a community, you don't know who you're cleaning up the community with. That's how you start building your relationships as well. And then storytelling. So strong resumes tell one side of the story. So yes, I help with resumes. But really, the question is does your resume really reflect who you are? And is there a gap? And so merging the gap. On Friday, Mark had sent me one of his graduates, and we were talking, she's getting ready for an interview, and her resume, like, she has her face on it, we don't do that anymore, but she has all these great credentials, but they need to be at the top, where her power skills really reside. So we did a little bit of shifting, and then the next thing that we have to talk about is this, ATS. You guys know about this?
No.
Applicant tracking system. So this is not in my book. I just reference it, but the QR code that I have that's specific to this. When you're applying for jobs now, they have to go through, AI has been around for years. We all know that. It's just now in the everyday person's life. But applicant tracking is when you put a resume or an application through a system. There is an AI reader for that company, for that hiring firm, what have you. There's a way to make sure that your resume is readable by the applicant tracking system, so that the goal is to get in front of a human for at least 10 seconds for them to review your resume, for you to get a screening interview. And so there's ways that if you are familiar with AI, you can use AI to say, optimize my resume for applicant tracking. So I work with a lot of young people. Career services in colleges and universities, they know some of this. Some of it is a little limited. So I work with individuals to make sure that they're ready, that their resumes are going to be good for the opportunity. And then just preparing for success. So I talk a lot about that towards the end of my book, really around your strengths. So I do a lot of strength inventorying, career interest inventorying, and then, the future of work, and making it an opportunity and not an obstacle. And so people ask me in these conversations all the time about AI. And so I always say, AI is great. Research, writing, productivity, career exploration, human skills remain critical. Creativity and leadership, empathy. We are talking about empathy so much more now. I'm a Brené Brown fan, and I have been for years, but it's coming up ever so, even much more because of some of these competing global demands as we talk about machine learning and AI. And so these are future-ready skills that you need for both. And say, and so when people always say, what will you do next? I always give an action plan. So in each chapter, I also have one activity, a power-up move for you to think about. So I always like to, lead my conversations and sessions with, what's one skill you want to develop, one relationship that you want to strengthen, one experience to pursue, and one action to take this week. And so even with what you've learned here, what you're doing in your personal lives, I always think about, what am I going to learn this week? Who am I going to get together with and connect with this week? So that's just something that I do personally, and I always think about those small steps and the big results on the other side of it. So I like to have actionable steps. Know yourself, develop your power skills, build meaningful experiences, invest in relationships, stay adaptable. That's another big one. fixed mindset, growth mindset, take consistent action, and progress beats perfection. And employers don't want perfect employees. They want adaptable, flexible, growth mindset oriented individuals. And I have to tell you, a little bit of Gen Z, they're a little fixed on some things. And they go way into the weeds on some things and stay at high level at other things. They're very interesting. It's been fun learning the language, I guess. So this is information. I do have a Facebook page, Conversations with Dr. Keisha, and TikTok, and then drkeishataylor.com is my website. And I have a few books here if you'd like to purchase, or you can get them on Amazon too. So I'd love for you to ask me some questions. Thank you for being so attentive.
I was just wondering, I was in the car listening to NPR. They were talking about how it's very difficult for young people to find jobs right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced that. as
Oh,
well,
yeah, absolutely.
Because the older people are kind of taking these.
Well, they're still in
They're
the
not
jobs.
leaving.
They're not leaving.
They're not leaving.
So that's what I was saying to you about, it's the
Sorry,
largest
economic.
workforce
Right,
from the boomers to Gen Alpha.
right.
So the boomers, I was saying, they're there because they're helping their grandkids or their kids. And that's true. Economically right now, some are still there. One, they might find happiness and purpose, but also because of the dollar and the way the economic trends are. So yes, the
But
US
even the
Department.
lesser of jobs, like
So entry level.
McDonald's and,
Yeah.
you know, that's.
Well, I don't know if you've been to a McDonald's lately, but the people at the window are,
Generally young.
no,
I found young ones, yeah.
some young, some mid-age.
Does the
The person who gave me my
older-
oatmeal yesterday, she is definitely late 30s. You know, so what's happening? So the U.S. Department of Labor statistic for January 2026 is that it takes 16 weeks, and I'm talking about 4-year degree people, about 16 weeks to find employment.
Wow.
But over the age of 35, you add 5 weeks. So the on-ramping, to your point with your, not recording, right, like with, you have to begin investing in people and networking to begin to plant seeds. So young people are not finding jobs right away because it's not just about the resume. There are also a lot of young people who have not had internships, and so if you want to go into a data analytics role at RSM, Radwell, you didn't have an internship with them. They're taking the people that they have built and developed first. Recruiting, for example, for summer internships, recruiting starts in the fall. So I have an engineering kiddo. Engineering internships start in September. Kids get on the campus in August. They don't even know that, right? And so that is what happens. By January, they've taken whoever they're taking, and then they might go back to campus February and March and see what like stars might have, like they might have missed. KPMG, accounting firm. So I work with Lenovo, KPMG, Verizon, RTX. They all do this is all very new. So yeah, when you're graduating, yeah, like I hope you had an internship. I hope you made some connections. I hope you're networking, because studying just for the test, not gonna do it. And so that is the reality. And so we've got to get this information out to share so that they have, you know, greater access and information. And again, you know, the hungry ones, they get in the door.
Kind of piggybacking what you just said. So a lot of the bigger corporations are donating to the colleges, so they can go into the colleges and address their graduating class or their next year graduating class, and they're pulling the interns directly from the college.
Correct,
Because they're in that curriculum.
correct.
So if your child is not in the curriculum and they're not sure what they're gonna do, that's even more of a
Challenge.
challenge, right?
Yeah, and so to your point, I mean, listen, I also say this, most businesses in America are small businesses, all right? So there's only like 20% that are the big dogs, the Pepsis, the Cokes, the Lockheeds, right? Like they're also smaller businesses. So the depending on where you go to school, what you study, again, we're talking about the college ones, you really also need to get that information about what your college and university is known for. What are those, connections to which industry partners. So another young person came to me 2 weeks ago, they go to Rutgers Camden, they're a business major. That's fine, that's great opportunity. The issue is that there are not a lot of internships that have come out of, Rutgers, that particular campus. They're working on cultivating more industry partners, so they're in the process. But that's, so I gave them a couple examples of where they could go, including looking at county internship job opportunities, which they didn't know. So Camden County hires 150 college age, some high school and college age for lots of different companies within the county. Burlington County does it on a little bit of a smaller level. And so there's different ways and there's things that are happening, but you just have to know about them. And that's the inquiry and insight.
Just on a different side, I really enjoyed your presentation, thank you. And even though I'm not a young college age person, but I think lots of things you talked about also apply to me. Because I've been in transition of, my background is in culinary management, and I got overwhelmed, went into nannying, and then on the side, I was still involved in the food industry. But now, trying to get back fully into the food industry, creating my own business, making my own brand, creating what I want. I feel like lots of things you talked about really,
We should talk.
Yes, so thank
because
you.
being an entrepreneur, and like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur,
Right,
is like not for the faint of heart.
it's not,
And,
it's
and
not.
most businesses,
Yeah.
you know the stat, right? Like they fail in the first 5 years.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, we should talk about like the Small Business Action Committee, that's in Burlington County that helps with business owners, and there's lots there. And when you leave a particular industry, getting back in, it's a slog.
Right.
And it's all about connections.
So I actually
Yeah.
just started just registered my company.
Good.
Last year, and I've been working towards getting a space, commercial space,
Mm-hmm.
for creating healthy meals.
Yeah.
And just in the middle of navigating around all of that, my clients and what to produce and how to market and just
Yeah.
those little things. So
Yeah.
and even hiring some interns to
Right.
even come
Yeah.
and help. So that
Building your
really
own
opened
pipeline.
my options
Mm-hmm.
up, that I can even have people,
Yeah.
interns come help out in the starting age, so that way
Right.
I'm not like
Looking
to
for
hire
people.
a full-time person that
Correct.
is, so this is really great.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
forward to reading your book.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, but what happens a lot of times with people who are starting online presence,
Mm-hmm.
and then are building a business online, they're at the whim of the online, whatever it's Facebook or
Yeah,
TikTok.
all of them have their different
Instagram.
algorithms.
They get
Yeah.
flagged,
Yeah.
their content gets pulled down, and then your business is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
really have to be careful.
Yeah, which you have to do both and so you gotta do the in-person.
Yeah.
And so New Jersey, I mean, we have so many small businesses, we have our own small business action centers in each county. Because we have so many small businesses, NJEDA, the Economic Development Association and Authority, they also have loans for small businesses, they have classes, they have certifications, they do a lot. We have a lot of resources because you can't just do online, because you are at the whim of Meta, and we can't fight Meta, so you have to be able to do both yeah. Any other question, Mary?
And how do you work with your clients to develop more self-confidence?
Yeah, it's a lot of coaching, right? So that's just the coaching. It's a lot of framing. It's a lot of asking, questions that I think are insightful, reflective. I have a lot of young people that come right to me and they want to give me the answers right away, and it's like, no, pause, reflect. So taking time, but so I go through an iteration of exercises, building the self-confidence, and the young person who just got the job. I mean, he came out of Purdue. University. It's not like data analytics, no prospects, but part of it was also building the confidence. Where he was falling down is when he had an interview, is also not necessarily showing up his fully confident self. So practicing. There are a lot of online tools too to practice Because also, not only do you go through applicant tracking system, your resume, but your first screening interview is with AI. And you're talking to a computer. And you have to talk to the computer like you're talking to a human. And so, it's called Big Interview. It's a big platform. There are a couple different free modules. And then there's a subscription. But that Big Interview also helped him to like get through the screening to the next thing. And now he's working at NJM, so yay. Yeah, so happy for him.
Do you find a level of frustration with young people saying, well, AI is gonna take this job over anyway,
Yes.
why should I even bother
Oh,
with
yeah.
learning
Yeah.
professionalism or whatever? You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
I kicked off Career Readiness Week at BCIT. And so that was like, AI's taking all the jobs, so like I said, AI can't do the things without a human on the other side telling it what to do. And so I talk about humanity and the humanness and creativity and innovation. Yes, their gut response is like, yeah, well, that also means that, yes, AI can do a lot of entry-level work. So when I say to you 6 months from now, you're gonna have to get more certification and more learning, that's why I'm telling you that. Because most of these entry-level jobs, if you saw them, they're not like 30 years ago entry-level jobs. Like, those jobs are very few and far between. So whether you're a technician, right, and I was talking to technicians, I was talking to, welders, a couple of them were in the sciences, you have to continue to add skills. Or, what's the choice? They're like, well, I'll just do Uber Eats. Okay, sure. I said, but there's an algorithm there telling you whether or not you're performing or not, so they understand that too. You're not gonna get away from AI, because like you don't deliver fast enough, you don't get the jobs.
Absolutely.
So I made that.
Amazon, 300 packages an hour,
So I explained that to them. And I said, and you're not really working for Amazon. You're actually working for a third party that is and it's generated by automation. So then they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, Google it. What do I know? And so then they Googled and they're like, and then there's like, I finished and there was like this line of the young people. And I was like, yeah, exactly. But you listened the first 17 minutes of my presentation, but yeah, but it was great. But like you have to say, like, that's not what AI is going to do. It's going to make things more efficient. It's going to make some things more automated, but at the end of the day, there's going to be a human has to make sense of all of it and still bring people together. Yeah. You've been a delight. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So Keisha has sent me her presentation. If you'd like to receive it, just sign up here on the little sign-up sheet on the front table there. And you can see why she is such a great person to have in our congregation, and don't hesitate to make all the connections with her that you can. Yeah.
Network. Your network is your network.
Right.
Yeah.
That is it.
Right.
Drew's sermon today